going to speak more about America, but at the end I'll speak a little bit about Israel. One of the biggest questions that I get is, do I have to file an American return? And if you see here are the different, for 2012, the different levels of income where you have to file a return. For example, if you're single and you're under 65, your threshold is $9,750. That where you have to file a return. Let's say you're married filing separately. You're an American that's married to an Israeli. So the Israeli doesn't have to report, the American does. Your threshold is $3,800. Now most people say, but look, I have a wage and I can exclude that wage. Well, that's not the case for the filing threshold. What happens is, if you have over the $9,750 of income from wages, even though you can exclude all of that on your U.S. tax return, you're still required to file a U.S. tax return. So for most people who are working, it's very easy to go over that threshold. One of the next questions I get asked is, how is America ever going to find me? Because let's take a really very simple example. Somebody works, they have a wage, maybe they have a little bit of investment income, that's it. They have no connection to America. They're not getting 1099s for America where the 1099 reporter is reporting to the IRS. America knows nothing about them besides that they have a social security number. Let's take a second generation Israeli. One of my kids, one of your kids, that all they have is Israeli income. How is America ever going to find me? Starting in 2013, we have FATCA. FATCA is basically employing all the banks in the world to be America's, let's call it their policemen. The banks are going to have to report to America the bank account information on the bank accounts of all the American citizens. Now, right now, because of FATCA, there are two types of agreements that countries can negotiate with America. The first type of agreement with America is, what's going to happen is the banks are going to report to the government, to their government, and then the government is going to report to the American IRS. And right now, Israel's in negotiations. I heard about 2 months ago a lecture from Frida Israeli, and she confirmed that they are negotiating for a Type 1 treaty. So what's going to happen under this treaty is the Bank Hapoalim, Bank Leumi, Bank Mizrahi, Bank Discount, all the banks in Israel are going to give the information to Mas Haknasa, the Israeli tax authority, and the Israeli tax authority is going to pass it on to the IRS. Now there's a Type 2 treaty where the banks report directly to the IRS, and in Switzerland, that's what they've agreed to. So the banks are going to actually have to come into an agreement with the IRS on an individual basis. Now, there are lots of countries that are in negotiations right now with the IRS, and for example, France and England have a Type 1 treaty, and most countries are trying to negotiate this, because the advantage of a Type 1 treaty is the other countries are going to get something back from America. For example, the UK is actually going to get more information from America than America is going to give to the UK. So, excuse me.
The other way.
It's the other way around. The UK is going to get more information from America than America is going to get from the UK. And that's why these countries are eager to get into agreement with people. For example, there are customers that are Israelis that have accounts with Doug. They fill out a W-8 form, they invest in America, and their country of origin, Israel, doesn't get any information. Now what's going to happen is that, for example, the investment agent that Doug uses is going to be disclosing information through the IRS to Israel. So Israel has a lot to gain for information on people that haven't been reporting potentially. Now, what the banks are going to have to do is they're going to have to determine which of their customers are American citizens or green card holders. For pre-existing accounts, the banks are going to have to do less work. What's going to happen if the banks decide that they're not interested? And that's not so relevant here because the Bank of Israel has already signed up all the banks in Israel to do that. Let's say I'm an account holder, Bank Hapoalim comes to me and say, I'm not interested, I'm not going to tell you if an American or a non-American. What's going to happen is there's going to be 30% withholding at source on everything in my bank account. Generally, what's happening is if you tell the banks that you're not interested in signing a W-9 or W-8 right now at Bank Hapolim or Bank Leumi or Bank Mizrahi, what's happening is they're actually kicking out the customers. They say, tell us where to write the check. We don't want to know you if you're not going to tell us if you're an American or not. For FATCA, we're going to see the first reporting to America in 2015 for tax years 2013 and tax year 2014. In the first 2 years, they're going to be reporting the highest balance. They only have to report if the balance goes over $50,000, but I'm not sure if the banks are going to be equipped to put in the filter. If they're going to report for accounts that are less than $50,000, we have to assume the worst, that the banks are going to report every single American and what their greatest balance is. Starting in 2016 for the 2015 year, the banks, in addition for the highest balance, are also going to have to report the income inside the bank accounts. So what I said before is the banks, for pre-existing accounts that were open before 2013 or 2012, because the banks actually have started asking every single customer that opens a new account, are you an American citizen? Are you a U.S. green card holder? If you go in, that'll be one of your first questions. Now, for pre-existing accounts, let's say you open an account 15 years ago, the banks have to do less work. For an account that's less than $50,000, they have to do a scan of their records. But if you open up an account, and if you look on your 2 Zehut, one of the most obvious things that it says, at least for me it does, it says that you were born in America. The question is, does the bank have that information on their electronic records? I'm not sure, but it's just something to keep in the back of your head. For accounts over $1 million, the banks have to do a lot more work and document their customer if they're a U.S. citizen or a green card holder. So one of the things I will show you at the end, or actually in the next slide, is something that a customer from Bank Leumi received. They're being asked, you can see this on the slide, are you a U.S. person? If you are, you have to complete a W-9 form. If the bank asks for it, they're looking for the relevant portions of your tax return. They're looking for your FBAR form, and you have to provide it to the bank. I don't know if this is legal or not, but this is what our banks are asking it. And I know I've had more than one client call up in hysteria saying, can the banks actually ask for that? The answer is probably no. But the pushback at the bank, I'm not sure you're going to have much success. Because the bank is scared and they're trying to protect their liability, and they want to make sure that you as the customer are doing what you're supposed to be doing for your U.S. liability. This is a W-9 form, and this is what you have to fill out and give to your Israeli bank if they ask you. You put your name up here, you check the box that you're an individual, and you put your address and your U.S. Social Security number. Not a hard form to fill out, but very, very powerful piece of information that you're turning over to your bank with your name and your Social Security number. Now, one of the things that I don't think most people have been thinking about, they've been thinking about the American piece, that America is going to suddenly get all their information about their Israeli bank account. One of the things that people have to think about on the other side is Israel now has the ability to get lists of American citizens. And Moshe Asher, who is the new head of the Israeli Tax Authority, has made a statement. I don't know if it's noise, I don't know if it's actually true, that they're going to start looking for foreign income that's not being reported, because they know that there are lots of Israelis that have foreign income that's not being reported. When the banks start reporting to the Israeli Tax Authority, and the Israeli Tax Authority is going to be reporting to the IRS, you're giving the Israeli Tax Authority a very, very powerful tool. Whether they'll use this or not, I can't say. I can't vouch for them, but you have to think. They're getting something extremely valuable. They're going to get names of Americans, and the Israeli Tax Authority could come to people's doorsteps or write letters and go, do you have foreign income? If so, where's my tax? And for right now, the tax rate on interest, dividends, and capital gains is 25%, less whatever tax you paid in America. So Israel has a lot to gain if they decide to put this into action. One of the things I often hear from people is, well, what happens if I'm not a citizen of Israel? Should I have to report to Israel? Why do I have to tell them anything? I'm not really here, or I'm going back and forth. Israel taxes you on your residency, not on your citizenship. So Israel takes a look, where is your quote-unquote center of life? Where do you live? Where do you own homes? Where's your places of business? Where are your finances and your investments? Where are your clubs? Where are your memberships? Other things that they look at, where's your driver's license? Where do you vote? They're trying to understand where do you belong. And in the treaty between America and Israel, they actually have tiebreakers on where your center of life is. For people that are going back and forth, they have tiebreakers to decide which country has the first right to tax. Besides the center of life, they also have a test based on days. If you're in Israel more than 183 days during the tax year, or if you're in Israel for 425 days in a 3-year period, including 30 days in the current tax year. Now, both the taxpayer and the Israeli tax assessing officer can rebut the presumption. I'm going to give you 2 examples. Shalom Dashu, you should never know. If someone comes to Israel as a tourist, he gets hurt, he's in a hospital for 2 years, he's certainly over that 425-day threshold. But there's no way his residence is Israel. His center of life hasn't changed. Let's take another example. Somebody's a student. They stay here for a year, 2 years. They stay here for 15 years. They try to say, but my center of life is in America. Probably after year 2 or 3, the center of life has shifted over to Israel. So the days test is very nice, but it's not absolute. So it's something to keep in mind. For example, let's say I have a foreign athlete that's here for 2 years and then goes back. His center of life is probably not in Israel.